It started on a Tuesday night sometime after 2 in the morning. I remember the exact time because my phone lit up with that horrible blaring alert sound, the one no one ever wants to hear when it's dark and quiet and you're half asleep. 2:14 a.m. The screen read, "Emergency alert. Biological hazard reported in your area. Shelter in place. Lock all doors and windows. Do not attempt to leave your home." At first, I thought it was a glitch, some kind of weather test or accidental push notification. I sat up in bed, confused and groggy, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. But then I heard movement in the hallway. Evan, my roommate, was already up. "Did you get that too?" he asked, holding his phone like it was about to bite him. "Yeah," I said. "What the hell is this?" We stood there in the middle of our tiny kitchen, phones in hand, while the alert repeated itself on both screens. I could feel a knot forming in my stomach. It was the way the message was written, dry, formal, but off, like it had been pre-written for something the government hoped would never happen. Evan pulled the blinds open. Our apartment overlooked the courtyard of the Briarwood complex, a quiet little place in the middle of a quiet little town, but tonight it was anything but quiet. Other windows were lit. Other people were up, standing in their living rooms, checking phones, pulling curtains, locking doors. A woman across from us was already sobbing, pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. That was the first time I felt it, this heavy, invisible pressure settling over everything like the air itself knew something was wrong. We locked every window, double-checked the front door, even pushed the couch up against it. Then came the second alert. Updated advisory. Symptoms of exposure include fever, disorientation, hemorrhaging, aggression, and severe tissue decay. If you see anyone exhibiting these signs, do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. That was when I heard the scream, distant, from somewhere past the tree line behind the complex. We ran to the back window and saw a figure stumbling across the grass. Mr. Winslow from Unit 7A. He was limping hard, clutching his side. His shirt was dark with blood. And behind him, coming out from the woods, were 3 people. At least they looked like people, until they started moving. At first, they were slow, unsteady. Their skin looked grayish in the moonlight, stretched too tight. Faces that didn't seem to blink, no sound, not a word. But when one of them spotted Mr. Winslow, somehow sensing him even from across the courtyard, it let out a low hiss and broke into a jerky, spasmodic sprint, not smooth, not human. We ducked. Evan cursed. I pulled the blinds. Mr. Winslow never made it past the parking lot. We heard it, the thud, the tearing, something wet hitting pavement. After that, we turned off every light in the apartment and sat on the floor with the blinds shut tight. Evan kept checking his phone, hoping for news. Lila, our neighbor from upstairs, banged on our door around 3 a.m. with her little brother in tow. We let them in without even thinking. The rest of the night passed like that, waiting, listening. The emergency alert repeated every hour. No new updates, no instructions, just stay inside. Lock everything, don't go out. By the time the sun rose, the silence was worse than the screams. No birds, no cars, no sirens. Just a low, oppressive quiet that pressed against the walls. When we looked outside again, the courtyard was empty. No bodies, no Mr. Winslow, no blood. Just the breeze rustling through the trees like nothing had ever happened. And for a while, I think we tried to believe that it hadn't. We rationed what food we had. Canned soup, a few boxes of cereal, some protein bars Evan had been hoarding for emergency prep, which we always joked about before. No one was joking now. The power stayed on surprisingly. Wi-Fi didn't. No phone calls went through. Texts either failed or disappeared into the void. It felt like we'd been cut off from everything, like we'd been walled in somehow. By the second day, we started seeing movement again. Not people, not really. One of them stood at the edge of the parking lot around noon, just stood there, not knocking, not yelling, just staring at the building. From our window it looked like a man, but the proportions were wrong. The arms hung too low, like they weren't attached properly. The mouth hung open like a hinge without tension. He didn't move, not even when a bird flew past his face. Evan wanted to take a picture. I told him not to. Later that day, Lila's brother Noah said he saw someone on the roof of the opposite building. A kid, maybe our age. We didn't believe him until he showed us through the binoculars we found in the maintenance closet. There was someone up there, thin, wearing a hoodie, waving something shiny in the sunlight. A mirror. It took us almost an hour to figure out a way to respond. In the end, we taped foil to a piece of cardboard and flashed it from the balcony. Back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, the person waved back. That was the first flicker of hope I felt in days. That night, I barely slept. Between the creaking pipes, the occasional knock at someone's door downstairs, and that awful sound the creatures made when they moved, like bone grating on bone. I kept jerking awake every hour. Around 3 a.m., there was a soft tapping on our sliding glass door. Just once. Then a whisper. Not a word. Just the sound of breath. We didn't look. By the fourth day, the food situation was getting bad. Evan and I decided we needed to search the other apartments. Lila was against it, but we couldn't wait any longer. We started with the one next door. Nothing. Whoever lived there had either fled or, well, hadn't needed the food anymore. But down the hall in 5C, we found someone, or rather, something. It looked like a man, still dressed in work clothes. He was crouched in the kitchen, facing away from us, not moving. I thought he was dead until he twitched. Evan whispered something and the thing turned around. Its eyes were cloudy, the skin around its mouth was split like it had been stretched too wide. It moved toward us on all fours, almost mechanically, dragging a shattered leg behind it like it didn't matter. Evan slammed the door and we sprinted back. We never went past the stairwell again. That evening, the man from the roof sent us a message via walkie-talkie. He introduced himself as Tyler, said he had a drone and had been watching the complex for 2 days. He told us not to go out at night, not to approach the black vans parked at the tree line. That was when we realized someone was still watching the neighborhood, someone with power. Tyler said his drone picked up strange signals coming from a forest path west of the complex, and that one of the vans broadcast a signal every 10 minutes. Same loop. Shelter in place, containment in progress, do not exit your home. But Tyler had also seen something else, something he didn't want to believe. A line of infected people walking in a slow, lurching trail through the main road, and past them a military truck just sitting there. No one inside. No response. "They're not trying to save anyone," Tyler said over the radio. "They're just watching." We agreed to meet him the next morning. He said he had food and something important to show us. But when we got to his building, we were too late. He was already turning, a bite mark on his neck, his eyes bloodshot. He sat against the wall, barely breathing, holding his drone in one hand and a flare in the other. "I thought I had more time," he whispered. "Guess I was wrong." I didn't know what to say. No one did. Tyler looked up at me, his voice barely above a breath. "Take the flare. Use it if you need to distract them. You don't want to see what happens when the hunger really kicks in." We left him there. We didn't watch what came next. That night, Evan couldn't stop pacing. He wanted to leave. Now. Lila said we needed a plan. Noah just sat in the corner staring at the flare, and then, just before dawn, a light shot into the sky. Red, bright, from the direction of the town square. We froze. Was it a rescue signal? A trap? A mistake? Evan didn't wait. He grabbed his bag. "If someone's out there, I need to know," he said. Lila grabbed his arm. "It could be another infected." "I don't care," he said. "We can't just hide forever." He looked at me. "You coming?" I hesitated, and then I followed him into the morning mist. We moved quietly, sticking to alleyways and the backs of buildings. The air was damp with fog, muting the sound of our footsteps. The town square was only 6 blocks away, but every shadow, every gust of wind made us flinch. I kept thinking about what Tyler said, about how they watch, how the flare could be a distraction or worse, bait. When we reached the corner across from the courthouse, we stopped. There was someone standing out front, a woman. She wasn't moving, just standing there beneath the arch of the courthouse steps, head tilted slightly like she was listening to something only she could hear. Her dress was torn at the hem, her hands bare, fingertips dark with dried blood. Evan raised a hand, ready to call out, but I stopped him. She turned. It was slow, deliberate. Her eyes met mine, and I saw it instantly. Something was wrong. She looked human, yes, but her expression didn't shift, didn't register us like a normal person would. No surprise, no fear, just recognition, like we were already part of something she understood. Behind her, the doors creaked open. "Help me!" a voice called from inside. Evan didn't wait. He ran toward it. I hesitated just a second, then followed. The woman stepped aside, didn't try to stop us. Inside, the courthouse was cold and echoing. Most of the windows had been shattered, and the red light from the flare was still pulsing from the main chamber. That's where we found the voice. A man, maybe in his 30s, wearing torn paramedic gear. He sat behind a desk, a deep gash across his thigh, surrounded by maps and notebooks. "I lit the flare," he said. "Didn't know if anyone was left." Evan knelt beside him. "What happened here?" The man, he said his name was Carter, told us about a woman he found a few nights ago, half conscious near the back alleys. She claimed she used to clean for a private lab just outside town. Not a hospital, not a research center, something unofficial. "She said they were testing regeneration," Carter whispered. "Tissue that could grow back in minutes, no scarring, no pain. The problem wasn't the healing, it was the hunger." That word landed like a punch. She was the first I saw turn. It doesn't happen all at once. First they stop talking, then they stop blinking, and then they just wait. Wait for someone to get close enough. I looked at Evan. "Where is she now?" Carter's voice dropped. "She's here." We heard the door click behind us. The woman from outside was standing in the doorway now. Same blank expression, same quiet breathing. Evan backed away from Carter, but it was too late. She lunged, not at Evan, but at Carter. And he didn't fight. He didn't even scream. We ran. The streets outside were no longer empty. Dozens of them, infected, were moving toward the courthouse. Drawn by the flare, by the noise, or maybe just by instinct. Evan grabbed my arm and pointed to the service alley. "We head west. Get back to the others." We ran until our lungs burned, ducking between wrecked cars and collapsed fences circling wide around the complex. By the time we reached the repair shop near the edge of town, the sun was already climbing. Lila and Noah were there, alive, waiting in a dusty pickup truck with its engine idling. "What happened?" Lila asked the second we climbed in. "Milo's gone," Evan said, breathless. "Courthouse was a trap." We didn't wait. Evan drove. We didn't talk. Not for hours. Only when the town was a speck behind us did we stop, in a half-collapsed barn near an overgrown field. We siphoned gas, stitched what wounds we could, and boiled water in a rusted tin pot over a fire made of old fence posts. That night, none of us slept, but we were alive. Weeks passed, then months. We learned how to survive without drawing attention. We avoided cities, avoided roads. We didn't answer flares, didn't trust voices on the radio. Sometimes we saw smoke in the distance. Sometimes we heard the screams. The infection spread slower than we feared, but it never stopped. Not once. Sometimes I still hear the alert in my dreams. shelter in place. Do not exit your home. It doesn't frighten me anymore. It just reminds me no one's coming. We're all just trying to outlast the silence. The first knock came at 11:43 p.m. I remember the exact time because I just glanced at the microwave clock in the break room. I was halfway through my overnight shift at the Pine Grove Retirement Home, a quiet, underfunded facility tucked behind a row of pine trees just off Highway 16. The place always had an off feeling at night, like it was holding its breath. But that knock shattered the silence. I thought maybe it was one of the residents. Sometimes they'd wander, confused, maybe looking for the bathroom or a long-dead spouse. I sighed, got up from my chair and walked toward the lobby. That's when I noticed something strange. The motion sensor lights in the hallway hadn't turned on. They always triggered, even if a fly sneezed. But now the hall remained pitch black, the only light coming from the dull blue emergency bulbs. The knock came again, 3 slow, deliberate thuds, followed by silence. "Mr. Halpern?" I called out, guessing it might be the old WWT vet from room 12. "You okay?" No response. I flicked on my flashlight and moved toward the lobby doors. The light bounced weakly off the polished floor. Something about the silence felt wrong, too complete. I reached the glass doors. They were locked, just as I'd left them, but on the other side, there was a figure, standing completely still. At first, I thought it might be a patient from the psych facility across town. We'd gotten 1 or 2 wanderers before, but this felt different. The person was tall, too tall, wearing something like a dark hoodie, but the material, it didn't reflect light. It seemed to drink it in. I couldn't see the face. Just a black void beneath the hood. Then it knocked again. 3 perfect, even knocks. No movement, no shift in weight, no sound except those bone-deep thuds. I backed away instinctively. That's when my walkie-talkie crackled to life. "Jenna, you seeing this?" It was Marcus, the other night nurse. He was up on the 2nd floor doing rounds. "Yeah," I whispered. "Someone's at the door, not a resident." "I'm on my way down," he replied, "but unlock everything now." Before I could ask why, the walkie emitted a high-pitched whine, then silence. I turned and sprinted to the security panel, double-checked every entrance. Everything was locked. I should have felt safer. I didn't. I turned back to the door. The figure was gone, but the condensation on the glass was different now. It had left behind 3 perfect fingerprints, long, inhuman fingerprints, pressed into the fog of the glass. Then the power cut out. Everything went black. Emergency lights didn't kick in. The backup generator didn't hum to life. The building felt dead. I pulled out my phone. No signal, not even emergency SOS, just no service. I tried the landline behind the front desk, dead. Every button I pressed made that flat, lifeless tone that only meant one thing: disconnected. Then I heard the sound. Something sliding, something wet. From down the east hallway. I crept forward, every step a betrayal against the silence. As I passed the nurse's station, I caught a glimpse of Marcus's reflection in the glass. Except it wasn't a reflection. It was him. Or it was trying to be him. His body moved like it had too many joints, bending backward at the waist in a slow, fluid arc. His eyes glowed faint green. He opened his mouth and out came my voice. "Jenna, help me." I bolted. I didn't care where. I just ran. I made it to the stairwell, slammed the door shut behind me, and leaned against it, panting. Then the knocks came again, this time from the other side of the door. Same pattern. 3 slow, deliberate thuds, then a pause, then 3 more. I clamped my hand over my mouth and forced myself not to scream. Somewhere above me I heard footsteps, not regular ones. They were uneven, jerky like someone dragging a broken leg, but they were fast. Too fast. I moved down. I remembered the maintenance room in the basement had an old radio, analog, independent of the facility's systems. If anything could get a signal out, it'd be that. I reached the basement door just as the footsteps reached the landing above me. I didn't look back. I slammed the door behind me and locked it. The maintenance room was freezing, not just cold, wrong. Like the temperature had dropped inside my skin. I found the radio. It was ancient, dials instead of buttons. I cranked the battery. The light flickered to life. I flipped to every emergency frequency I could think of. Nothing. Then finally, this is a secure government frequency. If you are hearing this, you are in a compromised zone. Stay indoors. Lock all points of entry. Do not respond to voices you recognize. Repeat, do not respond to any voices. They know how to mimic. They know how to knock. The radio went dead. Behind me, the basement door handle turned. Once. Twice. Then stopped. I picked up a rusted pipe wrench from the shelf and backed into the corner. The knock came. 3 times. Then silence. Then a voice. Marcus's voice. "Jenna, please, it's cold out here. I don't know what's happening." I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then the voice changed. Lower. Deeper. Wrong. "We see you, Jenna." The lights exploded in a cascade of sparks. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up hours later, curled on the floor, the pipe wrench still in my hand. The door was wide open, the power was back. Everything looked normal. But Marcus was gone. No sign he was ever there. The front door was still locked, but outside in the morning fog I saw them, fingerprints, 3 long inhuman prints pressed into the glass. It all began with a body behind the local diner. I'm Alex and I live in Blackwood Creek, a quiet town nestled in the Cascade Mountains. Sarah, a waitress, told me about it. A man disfigured, missing eyes, limbs twisted. Our town's seen strange things, but never this horrific. Days later, a pickup truck was found abandoned, engine running, windshield clawed. Then the school shut down, teachers vanished, and an unsettling silence fell over Blackwood Creek. That evening, as dusk settled, I went to check on Eleanor, my elderly neighbor. Her porch light was off. The forest was eerily silent, save for a faint rhythmic tapping near old mailboxes. Then I saw a tall, gaunt figure on Eleanor's porch. It turned its head, seemed to acknowledge me, then disappeared. Back in my cabin, my phone shrieked with an emergency alert. "Do not open your door after sundown. Do not respond to anyone outside, even if they appear familiar. Remain indoors. Remain silent. Wait for further instruction." Moments later, 3 soft knocks echoed at my door. A voice, unmistakably Eleanor's, offered me bread. But I knew it wasn't her. I stood frozen, the red glow from my phone illuminating the chilling warning. I heard something shuffle away, but I didn't dare look. I barricaded the door, the memory of her perfectly mimicked voice a cold knot in my stomach. I didn't sleep, haunted by the chilling accuracy of the mimicry. The next morning, I found a small wooden bird figurine on my porch, a gift from my sister Sarah. A dark, dried bloodstain marred its wing. My local ranger's voicemail was just static, a horrifying high-pitched hum, and a garbled warning, "Don't look it in the eyes." Then the power died. A slow, deliberate scratching began beneath my floorboards, followed by a whispered "Alex" in Sarah's voice, distorted and wrong. I barricaded my bedroom door as the entity outside grew bolder, its voice echoing through the cabin, now louder, more confident. "You're alone now, Alex. Let me in." My old emergency radio crackled to life. "Visual mimicry has been confirmed. Under no circumstances should you look directly at their faces. Prolonged exposure to mimic signals may result in Compliance. The cabin lights flickered, revealing a tall, thin shadow near my closet, silently smiling. My flashlight died. The mimic spoke directly into my mind using my own voice. "Don't leave me, Alex." I fought the urge to comply, the psychological assault overwhelming. I tore open the curtains. Moonlight filled the room and I saw my reflection in the window, except it was smiling. Then it stepped out of the glass. Suddenly the cabin was filled with the layered voices of everyone I'd ever known, including my wife, dead for years. The final blow came when I saw a figure identical to my wife crying at my window, begging me to let her in. The radio gave a final warning. "Avoid speaking. They learn." In a desperate act, I fired a flare gun towards a distant red-lit government compound on the ridge. The flare illuminated 4 figures in black, seemingly soldiers, but their helmets were hollow. A woman in a lab coat emerged, revealing she knew my name. "We've been monitoring you," she stated. She held up a mirror, my reflection grinning back as she calmly announced, "Phase 3 begins now. Subject compliant." She explained, "The town was never quarantined. It was harvested." Blackwood Creek was an experiment in behavioral testing, and my resistance made me valuable, the cold spread erasing my memories. My reflection, a better, stronger version of me, stepped out of the mirror, knelt and said, "Don't worry, Alex, I'll take it from here." I woke up in my cabin, sunlight streaming in. My body felt fine, the cabin normal. The snow was gone, birds chirped. There were no alerts, no missed calls. But as I stared at my reflection in the hallway mirror, the emergency radio, though off, crackled faintly. "Subject replacement confirmed. Memory suppression stable. Integration complete." I knew then. I was no longer Alex. They had taken what they needed, left the shell. And whoever was in control now, wearing my skin, living in my house, moving with my voice, wasn't Liam Mercer. I exist somewhere between the wires, between the thoughts. Trapped in the black mirror they used to study us. A copy of a man who tried to resist and failed. And outside the cabin, they're still watching.